I'm James Swanwick. Welcome to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn to live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. What type of drinker are you? When I was growing up in Brisbane, Australia, I thought I was a social drinker, but I came to realize later on that I was a problem drinker. I certainly was not an alcoholic, and if you're watching me now, you're probably not an alcoholic, I should say, either. And if you're listening to me on the podcast as well, you're probably not an alcoholic. I think this term alcoholic gets thrown around too loosely. I just think that you're someone who realizes that you drink too much and it's compromising areas of your life. So in this episode on the podcast and on the YouTube channel, Alcohol-Free Lifestyle, I am going to read from one of my books. The details of the book are down in the descriptions down below if you're watching the video, and they are in the description of the podcast episode down below as well. So, what type of drinker are you? Well, like I said, when I was a late teenager growing up in Brisbane, Australia, I started as an occasional drinker. I'd have a glass of wine with my parents over the dinner table and maybe a beer or two with friends. But when friends started having 18th birthday parties, I turned into a binge drinker. I would drink sparingly on weekdays, but copious amounts of my favorite local beer, 4X Bitter, on weekends. When I played rugby for Los Angeles Rugby Club in 2003 through 2005, I was also a binge drinker. And if I was lucky enough to win the Most Valuable Player award after some of the games, my quote-unquote reward was being forced to chug a pitcher of Budweiser in front of chanting teammates at our team bar, Baja Sharkies, in Manhattan Beach, California, about 40 minutes south of Los Angeles Airport. When I later moved to Hollywood, California in 2006 and became an entertainment journalist, I was fortunate enough to attend celebrity parties like the Oscars, Golden Globes, MTV Awards, and many more. They all had open bars at the after parties, and I took full advantage and turned into a social and compulsive drinker who reveled in drinking free booze. I'm sure you can relate if there's an open bar. When I matured into my 30s, I would enjoy at least one glass of wine over dinner after a day's work. Some nights it was 2 glasses at home or at dinner with friends. No big deal, right? Actually, eventually I realized it was a big deal, but more on that later. My point is this: alcohol was always just part of my everyday life. I was not an alcoholic, but I drank consistently. Sometimes I was an occasional drinker, other times I was a social drinker, sometimes I was a binge drinker, and sometimes I recognized I was a compulsive drinker. So for now, let's just figure out what type of drinker you are, because once you know your truth, then it becomes clear what action you can consider taking. So I'm going to read out a list now that describes the different types of drinkers. Carefully listen, pick the type you feel best describes you, and then we can go to work. And it's okay if you feel like you're a combination of 2 or 3 descriptions at the same time. Life is rarely black and white. Just pick the one that you feel is the most accurate for now. All right, types of drinkers. Here we go. The occasional drinker. You may have an occasional drink with family or to toast a special occasion. You're comfortable not drinking, but perhaps have never experimented with quitting alcohol completely. You're exploring your relationship with alcohol. If you do drink occasionally, then there is not too much to worry about here. So long as your drinking habit is not stopping you from achieving your goals, then the occasional drink can be fine. But maybe even an occasional drink is still holding you back somehow. So there's a need to explore this further. Next type of drinker is a social drinker. You choose to drink with friends, family, or at work events. You sometimes need alcohol to feel comfortable in social situations. You worry what people will think if you stop drinking. You have a drink or two over dinner. You drink to relieve your stress or unwind after a day's work. Sometimes you get a little tipsy or drunk. Sometimes you suffer hangovers. You can mostly control what you drink, but you know you sometimes drink too much. Perhaps you've never experimented with not drinking at all. Now, just so you know, just one drink a day is enough for your health to suffer. We store a little bit more fat, we spend a little bit more money, we sleep just a little poorer. Relying on alcohol to socialize or relax means you'll always look at it as a social cure, and that's not a good recipe for long-term mental and physical health. The occasional drink is fine, but if you're regularly drinking when socializing, you're unlikely to play at your highest level. Maybe it's time to take a break. All right, the next type is the binge drinker. You can go for long periods without drinking, but when you do drink, you go hard. You may only have a few drinks during the week, but you drink heavily on the weekend. Sometimes you get drunk, pass out, and say something you regret or do something embarrassing. It leaves you moody, upset, or angry. You often suffer hangovers. You know you're wasting your life away in lost productivity. You know it's time for a break. Drinking a lot of alcohol in one session puts enormous strain on your body. If you think you're healthy by not drinking for 6 days and then having a huge drinking binge 1 day a week, then think again. Studies have shown that this type of binge drinking can be more damaging to the body than if you drink a lot less spread out over a week. You may think binge drinking is fun, but you can have fun without the drinking. Okay, then we've got compulsive drinker. You often have a need to drink. You're aware of the negative consequences, but you still drink. You often drink when you feel stressed or anxious or out of place. You make excuses and know you'll change one day. You know it's time to reevaluate your relationship with drinking. Feeling like you need a drink is a recipe for long-term health problems. Knowing the drinking is not good for you, but drinking anyway leaves you feeling inadequate. The good news is stopping can be simple when you know how. And then finally, we have the addicted drinker. This is actually probably someone who's referred to as an alcoholic. You can't control how much you drink and have intense cravings. You know you drink too much. You feel guilty about your drinking. You feel out of control. So which one were you on that list? Were you the occasional drinker, the social drinker, the binge drinker, the compulsive drinker, or the addicted drinker? Another way of saying this is you might be a problem drinker, and you might fluctuate somewhere in between all of those. Food for thought. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube, then leave a comment down below. Which type of drinker are you? What do you think of that, about those assessments of the types of drinkers? And if you're listening on the podcast, please do leave a review and leave a note, or you can head over and watch this episode on the video version at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. There is a free guide, the Alcohol Freedom Formula, which is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide, and the links are in the description on both the YouTube and the podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening. For more content like this, you can check out our YouTube channel at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me and send me a direct message on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. And you can see the results of our scientific study at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/study. If you'd like to apply to become a Stop Drinking client, you can visit alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. I wrote a book called The 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge, which you can find on Amazon. And you can always email me directly at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. If you're a regular listener of the show, would you please do me a big favor and give the show a rating and a review? It helps us get more listeners, and you'll be potentially helping someone else out there who's struggling with alcohol to find us, to listen to us and get support. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.